Hey guys, Stealth here, today with a new game for the channel. This is Ultimate Admiral, Dreadnoughts. It's a game in which you design your own World War II / pre-World War II era warship. You can do all sorts of weird designs, you can test out all sorts of unusual designs that you might have ever imagined for a warship. And then you show them off, or you try them out, against a bunch of AI players. Now, the game is in early alpha, or it is in alpha, aka early access. It's supposed to come off the slipway in 2020, date is still to be determined. But I gotta say, despite it being early access, this is one of the most well-rounded games that I've seen so far, coming in from early access. Now, of course, there are still some features which are not exactly working, like a campaign. It doesn't have that yet. But what you do have is the Naval Academy. And the Naval Academy is, as the name indicates, an area of the game where you can learn about various different ways of building your warships. I'm going to go through a couple of these and just show you what the game is about. This is more of an overlook video to show you what sort of gameplay you can expect, how the game looks, how it plays, and make up your mind for yourself whether you like it or not. Now we're going to start out with the first one, Naval Academy Target Practice. You got the mission here, destroy a stationary target as fast as you can. You will build a battleship. Now, this is not a battleship yet, and the way that you might envision it. This is not a Bismarck, this is not a Tirpitz, this is definitely not a Yamato. We are sort of early age, and that means that you're gonna have very small ships. Think more World War I era. If you do scroll all the way down through the list towards the last mission, you got the modern battleship. And now we're getting a massive warship. And of course everything in between. This game, despite being called Dreadnoughts, does not only allow you to build battleships. You can also build, for example, a destroyer. You can build a battleship that has to defend against torpedo boats. There are all sorts of challenges that you can think up, or rather that the game has thought up. Anyway, starting with target practice. We know that the enemy is one battleship that does not shoot back. This is important because it means that my ship will not have to have that much armor. Both sides will not shoot torpedoes, so it's just going to be main firepower. Now, with this mission, you can have either an upgrade to secondary guns, main guns, or balanced gun tech, which gives you a small boost to small guns, a small boost to big guns, and a small boost to explosives. I'm gonna go for the main guns. Start. Now we're going into the constructor. This, initially, if you're looking at it, can be a little overwhelming, so let me walk you through it. Down here in the middle, as you can clearly see, we got the ship, but the ship is bare bones. The ship is just the hull. And we're gonna have to add quite a lot of material to said hull. Over here on the left, you got the broad characteristics of the ship. What's your displacement? So how big is your ship? This is basically how you can see that. As you can see on the plus side, it allows more equipment, more armor, more powerful armament, and it increases the ship's structural durability during combat. So if I slide this up, you can see the ship gets bigger. If I slide it down, you can see that the ship definitely gets quite a bit smaller. There are downsides, though, to having a big ship. It increases a ship's cost, and it requires more engine power to achieve high speeds. It decreases maneuverability, and it makes a ship a larger target. Now, you cannot just say, I always want to have the biggest ship. It's not always going to work. Sometimes having a smaller ship or two smaller ships might be better. And there are more constraints that you're working within. See, I can set the displacements to be maximum of 16,500 tons. In comparison, most World War II ships were in the range of 30 to 40,000 tons, so we're not even halfway there. There is also a cost limitation. I currently have a budget of 7.6 million. I've already used 6,000 or rather 6 million, just deploying the hull. And that's not even with weapons, conning towers, everything. Now you can also adjust the speed slider. Say, I want a really fast battleship. But unfortunately, the technology that I currently have available just does not support that. Again, for reference, the early Dreadnoughts from memory are, let's say, 1900 to 1920, if that. These ships were not doing 33 knots. The USS Iowa, or the Iowa class of battleships, was a really fast ship. They did 33 knots, but their displacement was way, way higher. And the technology for the engines was way better. So I'm just going to keep this somewhere around 23, 22 knots. As you can see, it does mess with my weight and my cost. I can even have this thing go all the way as low as 15 knots, which, in the case of this mission, where I'm firing at a stationary target, might not actually be a bad idea. Would the target be shooting back, and would I need to do pretty violent maneuvers, then it would be an issue. You can also set the range. Now this is something that in the Naval Academy I haven't really seen too much use of, but if you are doing a campaign, that is when it gets released, I can imagine this being pretty important. Where if you design a couple of ships, you might want to have a very large operational range, so that the ship can defend several areas, or can pursue targets. You could also have a sort of home fleet, with a very short range. So again, it increases or decreases the mobility of the ship. Not just that, though. It also decreases available tonnage. And this is, of course, because I'm carrying now more fuel. If I put it at very low, I'm at a little under 11,000 ton. If I put it all the way up there, I'm now at 12,400 tons. I'm going to keep it on short because, again, we're firing a stationary target. Then you got the bulkheads. How many bulkheads do you want? You can consider these the internal compartments of ships. And they do add weight. They do also give you more flooding protection, but they decrease your available tonnage, and moreover, they increase your ship's cost. So I could slide this all the way up. Again, I'm not going to do that this particular mission because the enemy is not firing back. So let's just keep this at few. Then we have components. You got the basic steam engine currently installed, and with more technology, and again, this is more something that a campaign will introduce, you can have better engines. Which, for example, this one gives me 10 horsepower per engine ton. If I go to turbines, I'm going to get 25 horsepower per engine ton. So your ship is going to have a lot more engine power, but at the cost of the engine being far more expensive. So all of these have their own stats, and I'm still working through most of these, just figuring out what goes where, what does what. Then you got your fuel. Do you want coal? Do you want semi-oil? Or do you want oil? I'm not going to go into these too much. Natural boilers. Go on natural, induced, forced, or balanced. And then there is the auxiliary engine, which I currently haven't unlocked yet, and the shaft. What sort of engine specs do you want? What sort of drive shaft? Next, we're moving into protection. You got iron plate armor, compound, nickel steel, Harvey, Krupp 1 through 4. Again, Krupp 4 is going to make the armor less heavy. So you're saving on armor weight, but your armor is going to get much, much more expensive, and the armor strength goes up. So again, it's a trade-off. Do you want more armor, but do you have the budget to afford it? Then we got the barbettes. Now, a barbette is the thing that defends the turret. This is not 100%, but this is mostly how you can remember it. I'm going to go with none. You can go for barbette 1. Unfortunately, I don't think it actually has them on this particular mission, so let's just keep that at none. Anti-torp belt. This is torpedo belt, so that if a torpedo impacts your ship, you are not going to be suffering from it as much. In a single or similar fashion, you got the single hull bottom, double hull, or triple hull. This makes your ship much more defensible against mines and torpedoes. Do you want, in the category of the bulkheads, do you want standard bulkheads, reinforced, or reinforced 2? Anti-flooding system. Let's say you do take a torpedo, or a shell punches through your side of the ship, and you start to flood. This is going to pump out that water. And then we have the citadel. Now, a citadel is a defended part of the ship. As you can see, it's a second layer of thick steel protection shields. I don't think that this tooltip is exactly right, A second layer of thick steel protecting shields the ship's... sorry, no, never mind. A second layer of thick steel protection shields the ship internals below the deck. It's just me sucking at English at the moment. It is the minimum hull modification needed to make a ship less prone to engine damage and ammo detonation. For those of you who are playing World of Warships, you know exactly what this is. For those of you who are not, one of the riskiest things that can happen to your ship is that a shell penetrates the deck, finds your ammo storage, and detonates it. This is what happened to the HMS Hood when it was fighting the Bismarck. In this case, the enemy ship's not going to be firing back, so I won't need a citadel. Next, armament. These are more of the, let's say, meta stats for the armament. Do you want standard shells, light, heavy, or super heavy? What sort of ammo shell count do you want? Do you want reduced shells? Do you want standard shell count? And you can see that I suddenly have a 12.5% ammo detonation chance. Or increased. I'm going to get 35% more rounds, but it does come at a cost. I might detonate. So if I would want increased shell rounds, I could do that, but I would also want a citadel to defend those ammo storages from getting accidentally hit. Next, standard torpedo armaments. How much do you want? Do you want reduced torpedoes, standard, or increased? Same as the shells. And yes, battleships can have torpedo launchers. Then, and this is another big one, what sort of propellant do you want for your guns? Do you want black powder? And we go all the way up to high TNT. Then, how do you want your turrets to move around? Hydraulics, advanced, electrical, or electro-hydro? And again, all of these have trade-offs. Reload. Do I want standard reload or enhanced? Of course, you would logically want enhanced, because it gives you a 10% reload buff. But it comes at the cost of your guns, your mains and secondaries, and casemate guns being 7.5% heavier. So if your ship is already getting close to overweight, you don't really want this. And then what sort of torpedo propulsion do you want? Again, not applicable for this ship. And the torpedo size. You can bring these up all the way to 22 inch. Which, of course, improves the damage. But at the same time, it improves the torpedo launcher costs. Or, well, let's say the torpedoes are going to be a hell of a lot more expensive. Then we get equipment, a rangefinder, acoustics, radio, and radar. Again, this is very early tech, so I don't have any of these. And then bottom here, we got the armor. You can give the ship belt armor, which is, as it says, covers the ship from the sides, from the main deck, down to some distance below the waterline. It prevents shells or torpedoes from penetrating horizontally, so if a shell comes in like this, and that happens mostly at short range, then it won't do as much damage if it penetrates at all. And you can just keep this, you can keep going up and up and up with this. But as you can see in the top of the screen, my weight and my cost are increasing. I don't even know which ship would have even have a 20-inch belt. In this case, I don't even need any armor because the enemy ship's not firing back. Again, the same goes for the deck armor, conning tower armor, the turret top armor, so that if you're firing at long range and a shell doesn't come in like this, but it comes in with an arc and then lands on top of your turret, it can do a lot of damage to your turret. You don't want that. That's why the turret top armor can be important. Belt extended, deck extended, turret armor itself, so that's if the turret is taking direct fire instead of plunging fire as they call it. And then we got the secondary armor. You can also see a plan for the ship. This does not quite seem to fit inside the parameters of the bar here on the left. And I'm not going to go into too much detail for now. Far right, you got an overview of all the stats that your ship has. Displacement, cost, build time, and again, build time right now. And the Naval Academy is not important. But in a campaign, it can be really important. Do you want to crank out a smaller ship faster, or are you going to go with a big ship, which is going to take potentially 4 years to build? Then we got displacement, maneuverability, detection, currently no weapons yet, the accuracy of the ship, and this is going to take some getting used to, especially if you're coming from World of Warships. We got the armoring, and we got the damage control. Then we have the weight and cost. You can see what is currently the biggest weight that I have on the ship. And this is interesting because then it allows you to reduce weight when you need to. When the ship goes over the weight limit, you're going to have to take weight off somewhere. Next we have stats, and here it says 0 out of 1 main tower. 0 out of 1 secondary tower. I don't have any main guns and I don't have any funnels. That is something I'm going to fix soon. Detection. I get detected at about 5 kilometers out. Again, for those of you coming from other warships, you might be scratching your head and going, wow, a battleship with 5 kilometer detection? Yeah, but DDs are even worse to spot, so the destroyers. Hull, resistance, just, you got a ton of numbers. I'm not going to go into all of them. Let's just get to work and build the ship out. We're going to start with the main tower. And here too, you have your first design decisions. Do you want a front tower numbers or a tier 3, tier 2, or tier 1? Tier 3 gives you better long-range accuracy, better base accuracy, aiming speed. Basically, everything that you can see on that line goes up a little bit. Since the enemy is not firing back at me, I'm going to go with the front tower 1. Also because it is cheaper, and moreover, it has a little bit less weight. This is 420 tons versus 500 tons. So just going to go with front tower 1. You're also going to need a secondary tower. And as the game indicates here on the right, a secondary tower is needed in most ship types and is an additional supportive element of the main tower. Usually the secondary tower suffers more from funnel smoke obstruction unless they are tall enough. Again, you can go for different types. Aiming speed, and aiming speed increase very little. But the spotting for this tower goes up quite a bit, 1900 to 2250. I'm just going to go for a standard one because I know I'm going to be spawning close to the enemy ship. Then we have the funnels. Do you want a large triple funnel at the weight cost of 680 tons? Or are you going to go with a standard funnel? Now this is not exactly something that you should take lightly. This is not just aesthetics, because I can do this and the ship would work. However, I would get a penalty. Because if you look all the way down here on the far right, you got the engine efficiency, which is currently 38.5. I'm suffering a 50% acceleration buff, or debuff. I'm also having far less torque at high RPM. So ideally you would want this at 100%. The problem with that is, I would probably need a triple funnel. And now I'm at 100%, but that thing is pretty expensive and pretty weighty. But for now, let's just go with this. Then we got the main guns. You got only access to centerline guns in this particular naval academy, but you can also get side guns. The centerline guns going up from 9 inch all the way to 13 inch. I'm gonna go with 13 inches because I'm fighting an enemy battleship. You can go for either 1 barrel or 2. And of course, these things do give you advantages and disadvantages. This thing reloads in 61.8 seconds and throws out 1 shell. This thing reloads in 92 seconds but throws out 2 shells. So my rate of fire goes from 0.97 rounds a minute for 1 gun to 0.65 for 2 guns. So again, it's going to be a trade-off. And you can see, and this is something I really like about the game, the penetration of the belt and deck and the accuracy. So at 1,000 meters out, I would penetrate 13.8 inches of armor, that is belt armor. Deck armor is not important because you're so close that the deck armor just won't get hit. The deck armor is that plunging fire, so a shell comes up and then plunges through the deck. If you're at 1,000 meters out, that won't happen. Since I'm fighting another battleship, I want to have the best guns as I possibly can. You also got the secondary guns. Oh, by the way, you saw that I have this, these, let's say, connector points here, these mounts. Doesn't mean you have to stick to those. You can just do this. It's going to look a little weird, but it works. Similarly, you can go, nope, I don't want that. I want secondary guns. I'm going to put a bunch of 6-inch secondary guns. And you can do weird shit like this. This game allows you to use your own creativity. It allows you to design the battleship or ship that you think would perform best in specific situations. And again, with the campaign coming out, I imagine having, for example, fast, lightly armed cruisers, which would then be able to intercept convoys. Whereas a larger battleship wouldn't really be able to do that. Now you can also see that the turret, the closer I get it to the main, or the stern of the ship, has less of a firing arc. So the more I move it backwards, the better my firing arcs get. I'm going to put it all the way over there. You got the secondary guns, which I generally don't think are going to be too useful in this particular engagement. As the game says, they add to the firepower of the ship. They're usually much smaller caliber. Their number and high rate of fire is very useful for disabling ship compartments or eliminating smaller targets such as destroyers and torpedo boats. Although they do not possess the ammo detonation hazard of larger guns, it is advised to protect them with additional armor to lessen this risk. It's a little contradictory over there in the description because it says they don't suffer from the ammo detonation hazard, but you want to armor them up anyway in case that does happen. So I don't think that this is exactly right. In this case, I don't think a 2-inch gun is going to be very effective against a battleship. As you can see, 1,000 meters out, I have a penetration of 1 inch. Keep in mind, my own battleship has a belt armor of 9.7. So I need something that has a bit more punch. And, well, a 6-inch gun has a punch of 2.9 inch with a 31% accuracy at 1,000 meters. But what they can do is set fires. They do fire HE rounds as well. So let's deploy a couple of these. I can throw one down here. You can throw one down there, but this thing, as you can see, it's somehow inside the ship, where normally you would have smokestacks. So at the moment, this thing does nothing. I could go for 5 inches maybe. Yeah, not quite. Alright, let's go for casemate guns. The casemate is this. This is where the older battleships and cruisers have their guns, or at least can have guns. So the 6-inch guns, and I can park one there and one there. And I'm keeping an eye on cost and weight, and so far it all seems to be working out pretty well. Now since I am just going to have a leisurely time shooting an enemy battleship, I'm going to bring as many of the secondaries as possible, because I couldn't for the life of me bring another main gun. I could try fitting it here, but I don't think it's going to work. And more importantly, I don't think I have access to barbettes. A medium? Nope, no mounts. The game just does not allow you to bring any. So I could try fitting another main here. Can I move this thing further away? If I would have this thing here... no. So that doesn't work. Maybe, though, if I go for a smaller barrel, so just a 10-inch, on both accounts here, I might be able to do it. And at 1,000 meters, I get 9.7-inch penetration. I still think that these might be a little... oh, there we go. It fits. Narrowly, but it fits. This does mean, though, that I will have to go broadside to the enemy, which, unlike World of Warships, is good, because it allows you to bring more guns to bear. World of Warships sort of has it flipped, where crossing the T, as they call it, so your ship is sailing this way, another ship is sailing this way. In World of Warships it's bad, because you're exposing the weak side of your ship, the broadside of your ship, and you're going to take more damage. In this game it's good, because it allows you to bring all these guns to bear. If I were just chasing a target, I would have only my front guns and some of the front secondaries to be able to do it. But in this game, going broadside is actually a good thing. Alright, let's go and have some fun with a stationary target. Now the enemy, and I think that these are just purely random. I'm the British Empire and I'm fighting the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The AI also generates some weird designs. And as you can see, I don't know much about this ship, because ship identification is still in progress. So I can tell what my own ship is doing, and what the stats for my own ship are. I can see what guns I have, the 13 inchers, the 10 inchers and the 6. And the 6s are already firing because they're easy to turn. My bigger guns are still taking their sweet time. And as you can see, the gunners appear to be drunk. And are, well, mostly pretty inept at hitting their targets. That's the main gun. Close, but not quite a hit. And now the stern turrets should also join in on the fun. And there we go. We got a little bit of armor damage. Ship identification is at 90% currently. You can see it on the far right. And then we can see what sort of armament this ship has. This ship has 13-inch guns. It has 8-inch secondaries. And it has 4-inch secondaries as well. You can also see that these have a specific number of ammo. 378 rounds, 1890 for the secondary and 810 for the 4-inch secondary. What else can you see here? Top left, you got the course and speed, you got the temperature, you got the time that you still have left to complete this mission, or what I think is going to be this fight at some point. Then you can speed time up or slow it down. And over here, you can see, and this is what I really like about the game, you can see all sorts of stats about why I am or am not hitting a particular ship. You can see that my hull stability and tower is not great. This, apparently, is not a very stable ship. So that makes targeting ships and actually hitting them quite a bit harder. It is cloudy weather, there's a moderate breeze, there's moderate sea waves. All of this factors into whether I'm hitting the ship or not. And you can see this per gun. So my two 10-inchers have a 73% chance to hit, and the one double 13-inch has a 56% chance to hit. That seems to be the secondaries going off. Now on the far right, you can see the status of the enemy ship. You can see here on the top, what is it doing? How badly is it hit? These are the compartments. These are the bulkheads, these vertical and horizontal lines that divide the ship into compartments. You can also see that the top of the stern and the funnels are a little damaged, but nothing too severe. And you have the ship's log. How badly is the thing hurt? So far, it's not too bad. It seems like the ship's fine. Now it's time for me to start maneuvering, because I am going to have a problem with my main gun or my front turret, because at some point I will not be able to swing it back to the starboard far enough in order to actually hit. You got several ways of turning the ship. You can just say, hey, I want you to attack this, and it's going to circle, so right click it. Or I can right click manually where I want it to go. Or you can use these sliders. Adjust the speed and adjust the rudder. Currently it's set to auto rudder, so that it gives exactly the amount of rudder that I need to get up or to end up where I would need to go. I can also just slide this over to the right. And now the ship is going to give full 35 degree rudder. And with that, it's going to just continue doing circles. That, however, does come at a price. Because as you can see now on the left, I can hardly... Yeah, I cannot keep this on screen and point it out with my cursor at the same time. It says minus 15% own maneuver. Since I'm rolling around with the ship, I'm making a turn, that digs into my accuracy. So ideally I would not be making too violent of a turn, because it just cuts into your accuracy. You also got a couple more buttons back here. You can give the AI control of the ship. You can give it a couple of orders. I can say, keep a steady course, screen for me, follow me, or retreat. Then you have formations, which I currently don't have because I only have one ship. Auto, do you want the AI to target or to pick what type of shell to use? High explosive, more damage, more fire chance, but very little penetration. Or armor piercing, maximum armor penetration, but standard damage. And then you have over here, stop firing, save gun ammo. So only if you have a very good chance to hit, I want you to fire. Normal is what I have it set to right now, or aggressive. Open fire with all guns at any range. If you got a lot of targets, or you quickly want to get a range on the enemy ship, this is helpful. Now I have stopped maneuvering, and you can see that the penalty from doing that starboard turn is now gone. The Budapest over here does not seem to be doing too well. It has 2 health bars. One is the structural integrity of the ship. The second one, the blue one, is its floatability. Can it still stay afloat? Currently, yes. The compartments over here have taken some damage, and as you can see by the animation over here, the front of the ship is on fire. So we have fire in what should be, I think, here, in front of the first tower, but is in fact seemingly closer to close to the midships of the ship. Closer to the funnels than where I'd expected it. Now, it doesn't matter which one you reduce. You can either go for pure structural damage, or you go for float. So, if a ship no longer has a floating ability, it will sink, naturally. Usually both will go down, because at some point my shell is going to punch a hole in the side of the ship, and if it is a side of the ship that is below waterline, the ship is going to start flooding. Doing a bit of damage to the main guns. Let's speed this up a little. There you go, there's another fire set. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I misinterpreted it first time. Yeah, this is exactly where the fire is supposed to be. For indication, this is the bow of the ship. This is the stern. So I should be looking at it like this. Now, as you can see, these things take quite a bit of damage. And there you go. Finally, we have a flooding. The bow of the ship has taken a hit below waterline. And as you can see, the ship is now flooding. There's a little blue icon filling up. This is why you would want to have those compartments, because the compartments stop the flooding and reduce the damage. If the ship would have few or almost no compartments, the flooding could extend all over the ship, and the ship would sink a hell of a lot faster. But as you can see, its floatability is going down quite a bit. It's reduced to 75. And with the increased fire that the ship is still taking, I'm still at a structural integrity of 71. Now, the float does go up and down. Sometimes you can see that the floatability comes back. It goes back up to 75, 76, 77. That's when the enemy ship is pumping out water. Or rather, in this case it is the enemy ship, but it might as well be your ship. Let's see, what's my range? 1.3. I'm going to get a little closer, because at shorter range I should have even better pen, so better penetration. What I like about the game very much is that you can just hold your right mouse button over a ship and you can see what the hit percentage, penetration chance, and range are. You don't have to look at everything that's happening over here on the left. And that makes it very, very comfortable. You can make this game as complex and in-depth as you like. Again, it is in early access, but I am very impressed. What I do find interesting is that for this alpha, they're offering 2 packages. One is an early, not early access, but an early backer of sorts, where I think you pay $30, and at some point you will get access to the ship, or to the game, not the ship. You can also go with $49, or $50 basically, and you immediately get to play it. Which I think is a pretty steep price for a game that is in early access. But it is the dev's choice, of course. Would I recommend it at this point? Yes. Because it is a game that fulfills a sort of weird niche. There are some other games out there, but very few where you can actually design your ship as in-depth as this. So that's something that I really, really like about the game. It's not terribly easy. It might not always be historically correct. So keep in mind, it is a game. If you are an absolute history nerd, you might see stuff that does not quite seem to go over with how it actually happened in history. You're just going to have to ignore that. I mean, it is just a game. But from what I'm seeing, they do put a lot of effort in how exactly they're going about it. Now that last hit seems to have been an ammo storage hit. And as you can see, the ship just went up. So, mission complete. I'm going to give you a very quick show of the modern battleship so you can see just how much we have. I'm going to go for more funds. This is going to give me, mind the numbers, 120 million extra. Compare that. I get 7.5 million. So I can now build a battleship for a price of 265 million. And I'm not going to take this thing into a fight, but just look at the displacement. I can go all the way up to 92,000 tons. I can take main guns of 16-inch. Had I taken the other tech boost, I could go up to 18-inch, which is Yamato-type guns. And of course, you can make this ship as crazy as you like. I can have the main tower as far back or as far forward as I want. If I would want to make a kiting gun or a kiting boat, so battleship, I could have my island very close together and then put most of my guns on the stern. You could have a 92,000 ton displacement ship with just guns all over the place. Would this work? Probably, but I don't think its combat effectiveness is going to be terribly impressive. I could put side guns on here as well. Unfortunately, right now they don't fit, of course, because I have all these others. But I believe that I do have the ability in this mission to place barbettes. There. Huge superimposed barbette. One of these weighs 400 tons. That is really damn heavy. But it does allow for what they call super firing turrets. So you have turrets which are firing over each other. Like that. And I could just build more and more and more guns over here. There is one thing that I don't have yet, and that's a funnel. I think I would have to sacrifice this one gun. Maybe if I go for side-mounted guns. Main guns, side guns. Let's say 11 inches. Not that I'm recommending this, but you could do this. See, it's just throw the guns down wherever the hell you want. Link down below in the description to this game. I think it looks really, really promising. You can play around with so many of these different variables. What type of shells, what ammo, how much ammo, what sort of explosive are you going to use to throw out that shell? What sort of torpedoes do you want? Do you want a battleship that speeds up and gets into range? Or do you want something that is just really slow, has a lot of room for guns, and that you can just get a lot of options with? Do you want, at this case, 5 battleships? I would have 5 battleships of this type. Or I'm gonna go, nope, I want the absolute biggest guns on this, and I want as many battleships as or as few battleships as I can. I can build 4 now. I can put the belt armor up to 25 inches. Which wouldn't exactly make the ship impervious to enemy fire, but, well, it'd be pretty close. You would have a lot of armor on the craft. But as you can see, cost goes up, weight goes up. Here, I have a 24-inch belt. You can go mad with this game. You can go absolutely nuts. I am going to be covering it more on the channel, especially as it continues to develop. I think it looks really, really interesting, and I hope you do too. So that concludes this first look at Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, and I shall see you guys soon for another video.